I'm awake. Are you?
I wonder how many miles I've fallen. It seems I'll get to the center of the earth. Curious, isn't it? And really, nothing's quite impossible.
Let's go now to our new episode of the Unfiltered Rise with me, Heidi Love.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Unfiltered Rise with me, Heidi Love. And today I have with me a semi celebrity, at least to me, I think so. Ben McClintock laughed a little, but I love his work. You guys he should be everywhere. And I just got done saying this. And if you don't watch his stuff, you probably should because you're missing some things. So he is with the Tree of Liberty Society, and he's also an author of multiple books, and he's going to talk to you guys about that. I have one of them myself. I'm going to get the next one probably as soon as we get off of here, and I can't wait. So, Ben, how you doing today?
Fantastic. So glad to be here. I think it's funny. Like, I think, both of our fan base, both of our bases might be mad at both of us, right? Because,
They
because
are.
of our background.
Yes. They don't want us talking, but isn't that the thing that we actually have to do? Because I
Yeah.
mean, what else do? You have to band together with people on things we do believe in, and we just, people get so offended. I just don't. If I know somebody comes on my show and they don't like a certain thing, like you still have certain beliefs, then
Yeah.
I'm not going to talk about that with you. I don't want to have a debate.
Well,
That's no
it's something
fun.
I start all of my presentations with, right? What are the two things you're not supposed to talk about in polite company? It's religion and politics. And to me, I'm like, those are the most important things. And why am I going to shy away from the things that shape my worldview? I mean, that's to me, that's more deceptive because you're saying something either that worldview doesn't actually mean anything to you, or you're lying and you're hiding what your worldview is, and both are dishonest. And so
Right, right.
you can't to me you can't separate it, and so we should stop pretending to.
Absolutely. Well, and here's the fact is anybody that wouldn't talk to somebody else because they have a different view doesn't mean you're very solid in your views. Right? Because I'm not going to
Yeah.
try to convince you of anything anyway, vice versa, I'm sure. But here's
Yeah.
the sweet spot in the middle. We both do view the same things on certain other things. And politics in
Yep.
Utah is one because we live here. What would we do about it? So we have to get it out there, and we're more similar than we're not in that.
Sure.
And
Yeah.
so I've deep dove all of your research. I want people to know the things that you put out there are, I mean, jaw dropping, honestly. And you've had some pushback, and
Yeah.
yeah, I'll let you tell them about that. If you want, you don't have to.
No, that'd be fun. Yeah. I think it would. I think it helps to show the reality of what I'm. That's not just pretend. Besides the data, because I'm just a data guy. Like,
Yeah, but you're a good data guy. You're scary. That's the scariest people in the world, like I told Justin.
well, Justin's. Yeah, I had we talked to him, and even we were both data guys, but we both came to different conclusions, and I think that's reasonable, as long as we're not denying what the data is. That's to me like whatever your conclusion with the data, and that's people always accuse me of trying to, because well, not always, because I don't focus on it a lot, but when I talk about the things that we're going to talk about today, probably like Russell Nelson and his affiliation with
Yes.
the Skull and Bones Society, people say, well, you're just trying to destroy people's testimonies. I'm like,
You're
data
in.
shouldn't destroy your
But
testimony.
you're in. You're in. You're a Mormon still, right? You
i'm a
believe.
believing I'm a believer.
This is hysterical to me because you were super careful. I thought what you did with your presentation, at least the one where you did the corrections recently, you
Hmm.
said, "Look, I'm going to stop it right here, and if you haven't seen this from the beginning, go back because I don't want this to hurt your testimony." How is that a destruction of what they believe? You warned them.
And that's the thing is I get these people, especially like there's this subgroup of Mormons refer to themselves as Doctrine of Christ, and they say, "Oh, I'm just an apologist for the church." And then you have churchy people saying, "Oh, you're just an anti-Mormon." And so you just getting hit going both ways by people that are,
Oh boy. And
so
you love them, you probably like we're taught to love members of the church. We're taught to love our brothers and sisters. We're
yeah,
taught all this stuff, but like also there becomes this part where there is deception, right? And in that book, the sun one, I can't remember the name of it right now, but the land of sun or something. I can't remember the guy's name right now. but I'll think of it in a minute. And he kind of tried to expose this back in the day. He was like, and this is a little weird. And I was like, yeah, it is. Your book said a lot, but it didn't. He was careful. And I think that's you. Like, you were trying to be careful with their feelings. And then the next one, right, you blow it out the water after you push play again. Like, there's just nothing you can do about facts. What are you going to do with them?
Right. I mean, interpret them whatever way you want.
Yeah, you're not trying to hurt the prophet of the church as far as the person maybe, but not the institution of the position. And
Because I
so
never said what the conclusions like. Does this mean he's not a prophet? Does this mean he is a prophet? Does this mean I I don't want to come to that conclusion for you? That's not my job, frankly. And I'm
Mhm.
just, but I also feel that like if I was simply just straight politics, like George W. Bush was a member of Skull and Bones, but I'm like, this prominent person over here, I'm not going to talk. That to me is dishonest. And so it would
I
be,
agree.
it's not reasonable for someone to say, you can talk about this person, but you can't talk about this person. The data is the data. If you're going to say this is not bad, then okay, then you're going to say that it wasn't bad when George Bush did it either. And that if
Right.
that's what your conclusion is, if it's just a college fraternity, fine, go believe that. That's great.
Yeah, and they only run our whole world now. So that's fine. Not
Obviously
skull
not
and
my
bones.
position. That's what
Yeah, but the
but
Greek housing, Greek living,
right.
well, it unites them. Like people have to look at this. What can unite people from all over, okay, with
Yeah.
different views, even on God, like you mentioned. That's a big one. You talk about somebody's God,
Yeah.
you're going to be in deep trouble. But we
Yeah.
do because also they do, because like I was showing you this book, Freemasonry, and I'm not saying they're the only one. We're just going to give this as an example.
Uh-huh.
Unites people because they don't care about your God. They say that when you walk in the door. They say, as long as you got one, good job.
Mhm.
Right. And so
And that
it's
changes as you get higher up, but
scary.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Scary. It's scary because it brings people together. And then by the time you do get high up, that's your brother, and you probably aren't going to turn against them. Right.
If you haven't read, or if your readers haven't read this book right here, they need to, because it shows how they work. You probably can't
Oh,
see the camera, but it's
Jacobism.
memoirs
Oh, I
illustrating the
saw.
history of Jacobinism.
Yes.
This is footnote heavy. This is data driven. This helps you understand how they work when they say that it's okay that you talk about God and what that leads to.
Yes. Awesome. The Jacobins have been,
Jacobins.
yes, interesting. They pop up just dang near everywhere. And, so do these Mormons. And here's the thing. We're not talking about the church today as a whole. When I say these Mormons or the past people, or more, I mean Mormons Inc., like Justin talks about, I guess.
Yeah.
And it's kind of scary because if you truly believe in Mormonism, okay, we'll just put it there. I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about this crowd.
Yeah.
You would have read the Book of Mormon, and what does it warn against? A lot. Gadianton and robbers, secret
Third most
combinations.
talked about subject. If you well, it's second depending on how you count it. You have the Savior, you have the Atonement, you have secret combinations. That's literally how it goes.
Yep. And so, it's just kind of concerning that we know that this has happened, and because of loyalty, it's not getting spoken about, and these people are going under radar in a falseness. I think you wouldn't say that. I mean, I know you're not bringing conclusions, you're just giving info. I would say this is infiltrated on a big level, and it's kind of scary, but it starts with, you know, the 1800s. I mean, we have to go clear back. We have to figure out, why did this happen to Utah? And you were the first one I heard talk about this. And I was like, who the heck is Godby? Who is this creature? Like,
Right,
what are we
right.
talking about? Yeah. Why is he never talked about? You're the only person I've
It's
ever heard talk
crazy.
about
The
it.
influence that he has and that nobody talks about him is insane.
I,
And
I,
people think, oh, well, he just had a
oh,
movement for about 3 years. I'm like, no, his influence is felt to this very day.
100%. And I don't know if you know this, you probably do, but and I kept trying to research after, I found out about him from you, period.
Mhm.
Like that is from you. And so anybody that's
It's
heard my
bizarre that nobody's picked
information,
up. Like,
yeah,
why is nobody even copying me on this? Like, it's bizarre.
because I think it's scary. Because do you know he was the one that sold a whole bunch of mining like operations to the British, and they won't name who. I've tried. I've done everything I can to find the 20 unnamed people that he sold these mines to through the Silver Mining Corporation, and it's concerning. I'm so sorry. This is very concerning when we look at this.
Well, we know the Kennecott mine is linked to the royal family, and it was its leadership was a part of the Alta Club. And so you've got, again, if you haven't read the Invasion, you maybe don't know what the Alta Club is and why it matters, but we definitely have, and it's linked to the Sovereign Order of St. John of Jerusalem, Knights of Malta, etc. I mean, this isn't mamby pamby. This
No.
network, this tentacle, and which is why on my book I have that Leviathan beast, because it's a beast with tentacles, and if we focus on the tentacles, we're missing the boat.
Right, right. And it's actually terrifying knowing that, this started so early. This started at the inception of our country, to be honest with people. Like if
Before, but yeah.
yeah, for us, for America. Yeah. And it's scary. It's actually frightening to see. Like I mean, if you follow real world events and you go into this and you go into like what happened here and everywhere, and then you go down from that and look as it spread outward, right, to Canada and Mexico through the Romneys and Canada through the Macs. And, they're sending missionaries to Russia right before Joseph Smith died. I'm like, what? And I'm like, what is going on here? This seems like early workings,
And to be that, to say that, we have to be cautious as well of things that are designed to either discredit or distract. And you have misinformation and disinformation, you have false opposition and controlled opposition. Masonry, especially, like we look at the founding fathers, people say the beginning of the country, and what's interesting is people will link Washington to it, but if you read John Quincy Adams' book on Masonry, he actually talks about how it was the Masons that framed Washington, claiming that he was a member, and that all of those paintings were just him, and that they made him an honorary member, but he was never actually a member, never actually participated.
Wow,
And
I didn't know that.
It was Washington and Adams. This is the reason why Adams and then nobody talks about this in school. They always say Adams and Jefferson had a falling out. Guess why? Because Jefferson was actually defending the Bavarian Illuminati and the Jacobins in France, while Washington and Adams were fighting them and warning people about them in the United States. That's what that was what the what's it called, the Whiskey Rebellion was about. That's what the Alien and Sedition Acts were about. We're actually going after the Jacobins, and that's what that's. And then once he leaves the presidency, that's why they're able to make amends later on with the Adams and Jefferson, was because Jefferson's like, I missed the boat. I totally goofed up.
Oh no. And we see it, like it's easy to do, because if you're not thinking in a conspiratorial mind frame or whatever, you want to believe my poor mom, this is my mom. I say all the time, Mom, no, not all people are good. You you cannot trust that. Please don't.
I think that's like the boomer mentality is not as used as an epithet,
No.
but like just that mindset of that time period is people, you take them at face value. Nobody would tell you something that wasn't true. If there's no evidence, you have to, if there's no reason for you to believe, I mean, of course you need to have evidence, but what I'm saying is you just take everybody at face value unless you have something else come in. Whereas with government, what we've learned is, and what the founding fathers knew, was that, somebody that wants power, you need to well, hold on, let's dig. You want power over my life? Let's dig in a little bit.
Yeah, let's not just give that away, mamby-pamby. Let's please watch it out, right? Like, why? And you mentioned,
apologize. I probably taken you off track. I don't know if there's
no.
A method to the madness.
Well, we don't have a time frame, and we don't, and that's just whenever
schedule,
you're comfortable. Yeah, and then
you wanted to address.
I do, but we are good because they are used to me, and I have ADHD. So, so don't worry about that. But we are going to still go down history road, and with this history, I brought up a couple things, but one of them that you brought up first is Godby, and I wanted to say, him bringing in the Federal Reserve and his very close relationship. Now,
it was Hebe. It was Heber J. Grant. My nickname for him is Hebe Jeeby. But
Hebe Jeeby.
So Heber J. Grant was the one that brought the Federal Reserve to Utah, not Godby.
Godby. Okay. He's the like kind of stepdad-ish,
basically,
I think.
Yeah. Like it was
Okay.
funny. I call him the Grant's godfather, but somebody was like, "He's Mormon. He doesn't have a God." It's a figure of speech. Like I'm not being
Uh,
literal.
They all do. It's kind of funny. If you ever go look into the Mormon Mafia or watch my shows about the Mormon Mafia, E. Perry Thomas loved the MGM Grand owner guy. I can't remember his name right now. He's still big. Steve, whatever his name is. He's still a big casino owner to
Mhm.
this day. Anyway, he was like his son, and another one was like his son, and they do this and do this and do this, and it's kind of frightening. But yes, with Heber J. Grant, it was kind of like his son, right? Because his
Yeah.
mom worked for him, right? For
Yep.
Godby.
Yep. She was
Yeah.
basically a housekeeper, and so he was hanging out there all the time with their seances and occult activity.
Table tapping. I like it
Yep.
when people say table tapping because it makes me giggle. But it was real. It was actually, I think there was two branches, look, more than two. But when people say the LDS church is full of satanic people, I'm sometimes like, sure, a wrong branch. Look, it all depends on which way you go with this because there are people that went and took this all kinds of ways. I think they forget Joseph Smith died and like all kinds of people ran with this. Okay. One of
Right.
them being Strang, which he does say he's freaking creating the Illuminati. He says, yeah, I made the Halcyon Illuminati. I'm like,
Yeah.
how's and Halcyon's a pill for antipsychosis. Do you know this now? That's actually hilarious to me. I
That is
think that
that's
was maybe a little hat tip to
well,
old James.
even
uh,
in a ward, you will have this, satanic ritual abuse going on, and then right next to that person that's doing that horrible evil stuff, you've got the nicest person on the planet that's helping their neighbor and doing the best they can. And
because
so I think it falls
it's
into
not
this
the
thing is
body, right?
when you
Yeah.
throw people into this, all of you are X.
Hmm.
Come on.
No, we can't do it. And even though I'm labeled, I'm all kinds of in trouble. Look, I'm
Sure,
like
sure,
you.
sure.
I'm not as Christian enough for the Christians because I won't say I literally got in trouble 4 days ago. They said, so Mormons aren't Christian. And I was like, I'm not going to say that. Like some Mormons are not Christian. And they're
Right.
like, but all of them. And I'm like, listen, I am not going to do that because I don't know what their heart is. And I'm not doing that as an ex-Mormon myself. I wouldn't want that being in the
Well, and they
church.
all
If
do it. Mormons do the same thing. Like, oh, you're of this sect. You're not a Mormon.
right.
That kind of
Yeah.
stuff. And so
It's yucky.
everybody, it's what's ironic, right? Because the Mormons are always like, I am a Christian, and then but like somebody claims that they're a Mormon, like, no, you're not a Mormon. It's like we all do it, and it's stupid, and we need to get over ourselves.
Yeah, yeah, that's a good thought. That's a really good thought, right? If we did that, we might just solve some problems. But and here we are. We're gonna do it because I already really like him. And see, he's a Mormon. I like him fine. Um, but when you look at these orders, and Strang is an important one, and
Oh
the
yeah.
one thing that Strang hasn't been published for, and I've done a show on him, my listeners know who he is his theology. Ha ha,
Mhm.
wonder why. Because it's the theology of the NWO, which we're going to get into eventually. But
Yep.
like, I mean, it was all there. Like this wasn't hidden really at that
Right.
point. I
Right.
mean, we can say it was, but I don't know. And Godby and Brigham kind of got into it, and he gets chucked out of the church, which
Yep.
is funny. But they blame it on the occultism. But I think that bit Brigham Young in the butt, to be honest, because he goes and sells off all these mines that he owned, right?
Wow.
And so there were a lot of them under this silver mining company. And so it's kind of concerning when you see one of the people on the board of directors in 1873 for this, okay? Their Chicago mine claim in Utah to British investors became the general manager of the mine for 2 years. And one of them is Colonel Byrd, spelled Byrde. And I'm like, that's interesting. But whatever. Major General Davison, Heinemann, Pontifex, Bevan, and Stanley, and these are all like colonels and different stuff. And these are just on the board. They won't even tell us who the investors are, let alone talk about the Mack family, which I thought I would share with you. It's kind of interesting. We're going to talk about Benjamin Brewster and Skull and Bones,
Yeah.
but also fifth cousin to Joseph Smith is actually William Huntington Russell on the maternal side through Connecticut Colt and Kingsley lines connecting to Mac. He is the fifth cousin to Joseph Smith. And I'm like, Okay. And then we know that Stephen Mack took off and starts settling a lot of important areas, including Pontiac,
Mhm.
Michigan. And so this is like bigger than I'm a dumb farm boy. That I hate when they do that to him. He was not. He was actually really smart. And it irritates me. It irritates me to no end, even though I'm an Exmo.
Well, it's
I'll give
because,
it to him.
education back then was, like they would talk about how, he got a third grade education back then is not what we're talking about today, right? I
Well,
mean,
his dad, they hail from Salem, you know, and his dad, all of them were in Topsfield. They were like the men like over the town. They were the select men. This is what they call them. And one of his great grandpas was a lawyer. And so his dad was a school teacher. So it's not like he wasn't smart. I hate when they
well,
do
and like I
that.
said, just kind of going on with my point, going back to James Madison. James Madison was poor. His family was poor. He would not have received the top education, but he got into Princeton. And so even as a teenager, we're talking like, I don't mean like 15, 16. I'm talking like 12, right? Maybe not even a teenager yet. He's reading and writing in Latin, Greek, and English. To get into Princeton, they assigned him a scripture right then and that he had to translate from Greek to Latin and then into English
Oh,
right off.
wow.
I mean, third grade education is back then is
Not
not the same as education today. We're
right.
morons.
They didn't
College
leave, yeah, no one
graduates are
behind.
morons compared to the 10-year-olds back then.
Hey, this is, and it's kind of sad that they really portray him like that. Honestly,
Right.
like that is not okay with me. Like, I think, like you, I'm all about info and like honesty and like, here's the proof, and that's what it is. Like, you can do what you want with it. But
Yeah.
he wasn't a dumb farm boy because he's studying Hebrew. What? You guys, come on. You're not going to study Hebrew if you can't write English. Let's get real. Like, no, you're not going to do it's hard. Hebrew's really hard. But,
English
to
is
that,
hard.
yeah, English is hard. Yeah. And back to, all these relations with Skull and Bones, like it's just kind of wondersome when we look at this and we see like all of this transition, right? Like I think they really tried to start a good thing kind of here. I'm not sure where it went wrong, and maybe you are. I'm pretty sure you have a better idea because I've read your book. Which is why
I
you're
have my
here.
views.
Yeah, I'd love to hear your views on where you think it went wrong.
Not right now.
Okay. Well, in his book, he talks a lot about it, and I think that it's really good to know to have information. Like you said,
Yeah.
we get the Federal Reserve here and people start to become corrupt. It goes
Oh,
out the
yeah.
window kind of quickly. Like it's not a good day. But Godby goes on with this Alta Club. And I'd love
Yeah.
for you to tell everybody a little more about that in case they haven't heard of it.
The Alta Club.
Yeah, that would be great.
So we start off with these two other clubs before you get to the Alta Club, and just in your mind, you should think of um, radical communists and then Fabian socialists. Okay, when you think of these clubs, I'm going to talk about the difference between Fabian socialists and radical communists. Okay, so you have these two groups. You have one called the Loyal League, and then you have one called the Gentile League. They're both contemporaneous, and they have a lot of the same people involved, and they refer to themselves as secret societies. And their role in the state of in Utah is to, and they even said with peaceable, legal means, but peaceable if we can, violently if we have to get rid of the Mormons. And Judge Will. This isn't, and this we're not talking like a bunch of podunk hicks out there that just they're a bunch of redneck Mormon haters. We're talking like
Non-literate Mormon
right.
haters. No, just kidding.
These guys are like federal judges, mayors, federal officials. We're talking like serious people here. Judge William Hayden says if our plan to do this is opposed, there will be blood running in the streets. I mean, and so that's the mindset. So they are willing to use violence, and they're willing to kill people that are opposing their role or their job to oppose the Mormons. And so just like with Colfax, Vice President Colfax comes to Utah, and he visits. He's coming here. Do we need to do another Johnson's Army to quell the Mormons, to get them to get into line? And he meets because everybody knows, amongst the conspirators in Utah that, hey, this Mormon guy, Godby, is who you need to talk to. So Godby says, well, don't do that, because if you do that, I'll have to stand with the Mormons. I can't help you if you do that. And so what you need to do is to fund me and my efforts. And so basically that attitude is recognizing that the in-your-face radical communist method of doing things is not effective. So they have to go the Fabian socialist way of, we're going to get the same end goal, but we're going to go the slow, nice, boil the frog slowly route. And so that's when they get rid of those two other organizations and they form the Alta Club. And it's with the same exact goals, but they're going to do it much more slowly, much more methodically, and infiltratingly, in that way. And so they and their whole, even in their own biography, they say that they're everybody knows that their job, what they're doing, is to merge basically the Mormons with the world. We're not going to say we're going to get rid of them outright. We're just going to change them so much they're not different anymore. There's no difference. There's no distinction between Mormons and the world anymore. And so they form things like the Salt Lake Chamber of Commerce, and which is very much the Salt Lake Chamber's agenda is very much on par with the National Chamber of Commerce, which was founded by the Skull and Bones, members of the Skull and Bones Society. And so, just full circle.
Oh boy.
And so and so to this day, every big thing that happens culturally, politically, they start with meetings that are held at the Alta Club. And so even in the 1980s, the mayor of Salt Lake, a guy by the name of Ted Wilson, not sure if he's still alive, but he's still engaged in globalist stuff today. He said in Town and Country magazine that Utah has a power structure that operates behind closed doors at the Alta Club. And so these admissions of them saying that this is where the conspiracy meets. It's kind of like Carol Quigley in Tragedy and Hope, where he's admitting things, as an insider. He's like, and that's what's going on. And he says that it's basically the leadership. This is in 1984, if I remember correctly, 83, 84. He says that the leadership of this basically behind closed doors cabal is the Salt Lake Tribune, the Chamber of Commerce, and the leaders of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And so that's by the night, so you're going where you have this organization is completely attacked and under constant pressure from the United States, to where it is a part of the behind the scenes structure. I mean, cabal to put things and merge the state of Utah with the rest of the world. However, we're different is how this network that operates out of the Alta Club is their job is to politically, socially, to get them to merge.
I think this is fascinating with what we know about. In this book, I was telling you about something called the Sevens, and the Sevens would have been in play when Godby was, up to his. He was a busy guy. Like, come on, man.
So just for everybody, Godby's like 1870s, 1880s is where his kind of his heyday is.
Okay, and so was he
amongst the population?
Was he still around? Do you know when he possibly passed away, or who took over for him afterward?
So it's actually in volume. It's in the new volume of Invasion.
I'm going to find out.
It's very important to understand. So he dies in early 1909, if I remember correctly, and Heber J. Grant speaks at his funeral. So Heber J. Grant is a member of the 12. Okay, at this point in time,
and the grandson
Godby's been excommunicated for 30, 40 years.
And the grandson of the prophet
say at the funeral.
Right? Yeah.
He says, William Godby is the most faithful man I've ever known.
Wow. And to put it in context for people that don't understand, Heber J. Grant is the grandson of a prophet, right?
Well, so his actual birth father was Jedediah Grant.
Okay.
And then he was his mother was sealed to Joseph. And so spiritually
it was
speaking,
just a seal.
He's Joseph's son. But physically speaking, he's Jedediah Grant's son.
But still important. Like this, I mean, if you're sealed to the prophet.
Mormon royalty, if there's a thing.
Yes. I say it all the time and get totally attacked for this. But and did he have a successful successor, I guess?
Oh, son.
Godby.
Oh,
Uh
Godby. Successful. Not that I am aware of.
not see, isn't it funny how it kind of just disappeared? Like that's like the Illuminati in general. It just disappears,
Yeah.
but it didn't. Come on. You know what I mean? Like we
The
know it
same people
didn't.
all just got together and started another group that had nothing to do with the other group.
Yeah, look over here, please. Look away. But it's kind of funny because I was looking through this old book. I like to go purchase old books, I was telling you. And I know this sounds funny. I'm still a complete Christian, pray all the time. And I prayed in this book. This is what I do a lot. I pray. I'm like, God, just show me. Like, there's thousands of books. I mean, there's just so many books, especially about Mormonism. You're in Utah, you know.
Mm-hmm.
There's no like way they really organize it other than by last name of the author. I mean, what else can they do? And
Yeah.
so I just pray and get led, and I got led to this book I told you about, and I was like reading it one day, and it says, okay, so George Wilson, the Republican boss of Salt Lake County, and Ernest Bamberger, which I know you'll know that one, the Republican senatorial hopeful, organized a secret political society known as the Order of Sevens.
Hmm.
Wilson, the kingpin of this organization, had been Salt Lake County's purchasing agent in the late teens and became purchasing agent in the early 20s. So I'm thinking like maybe he knew him before, with Godby, this guy, because he's
Right.
obviously active during kind of sort of that time. But the Sevens became increasingly controversial, a secret organization with an elaborate set of rituals. The Sevens were organized through a series of interlocking cells of 7 people each, sworn to secrecy and
Wow.
dedicated to the Republican Party. In 1922, senatorial nominating convention through the Sevens and Wilson's patronage and Ernest Bamberger succeeded him. So it talks also about, other nominations and whatnot, but it talks a lot about this party and how like there's only ever 7 and they nominate 7, and if one dies they can put one in, but it's very controlled and hush hush hush, and it goes
That
into
reminds me of like
something.
Bohemian Club and the Alfalfa
Yes.
Club.
Yes. And I've never heard about the Alfalfa Club except for you. So when I'm
Yeah.
reading this and listening to
Why
you,
is
I
nobody
was like,
copying that? It's so crazy.
I was like, I have to talk to this guy because I hate to
Yeah.
copy. I'd rather just talk to the person,
No, I'm
you
sure,
know?
sure, but yeah.
Yeah, but I get it. Like you'd be okay with it. At least the information would get
Why is
out,
nobody talking about this? It's crazy.
well, and Romney. And so I'm like, wait a minute. What? What is happening here? Why are these people organizing crazy things?
Right.
They organized another one under Bamberger in 1923 called the Party of Freedom or League of Liberty. And so I think that's going
Of
into
course.
somewhere where you're talking about, because I remember that, I think, from the book. So I was, like I said, I was in this area where I'm reading this, I'm listening to your book and doing a
Yeah.
bunch of research, and it all connected for me. And I went, oh my gosh, this is a little bit
Do you know
scary.
like these guys with this group of 7? Do you know what their other connect? Do they have other secret
Oh,
societies that they're connected to that they're bringing
oh,
in?
yeah,
Okay.
but it's like super secret. But I did find some of the names of them,
Hmm.
and it was even like horrible to find that. But they've got their hands in everything. They've got their hands in like the water companies, the power companies, everything,
Sure,
like
sure.
every company. And so it's kind of scary because they're in with the LDS apostles, and that's why I told you about what book this is, because I think this may be your next installment. After you read some of this, then you'll do your amazing research and find way more stuff. And then it'll probably be a whole book, like I could see it. And I mean, I'm mostly just worried about helping people and getting
Sure.
information out. So that's why I wanted to tell you
So it
some
reminds
of
me
it.
of a similar organization that's around today called the Buckshot Caucus.
Oh.
And the Buckshot Caucus, they refer to themselves, like amongst themselves, as the Utah Illuminati. Okay.
Ooh.
And what they'll often do is they'll use a second name. So they'll be like, just a joke. We're calling ourselves like, but like the other thing that they refer to themselves as is the Black Hand. And that's
Mm.
an important thing because the Black Hand is a branch of the Carbonari, which was a breakoff of the Jacobins, which is a breakoff of the Illuminati. And the Black Hand was the secret society that was actually behind the assassinations that led to World War One. And so this Utah Illuminati, referring to themselves as a branch of the actual Illuminati, is like that, but it's a branch that nobody knows about, so it's not a
Wow.
joke. They
No.
are giving like a key word to say, no, we're serious. This is who we are. So it's this group called the Buckshot Caucus, and they they have members in the legislature, and one of their members of in one of the districts in legislative districts, there was a special election. Some guy, he left office before the next election, and so they had a special election amongst delegates. And I don't want to get into too much of the inside baseball of Utah politics for everybody, but um, the the vote of amongst the delegates was a tie vote. Well, not okay. Let me back up. Um, the delegates had to pick, and there was not an even amount of delegates voting. So just for easy numbers, right? You've got 7 people voting and 2 people running, and there was a tie vote. Explain
So
that to
who?
me.
Yeah. And so, and
Okay,
ultimately, that
that's
obviously,
not
I
possible.
mean, yeah.
And so before they do they do this next step in front of all the delegates. They do this weird ritual, okay, where they spray paint a bowl of green M&Ms red, and they have they have this gun wrapped in bacon, and then they have this um, Dr. Pepper can tilted at a certain angle, and then they flip a coin, and the Buckshot Caucus member is now elected to the legislature. And so it just
Hmm.
really reminded me. So they've got these weird rituals. They have these, they're doing this today. And like all these delegates are just, this is weird, but I'm not I'm not a party insider. So maybe this is normal and okay. So nobody says anything. And this lady's still in the legislature to this day.
Wow. That's weird. Oh my gosh. Like, what is happening there with like bacon? And that seems so strange.
Yeah.
I mean, uh, I think there's an ultimate, it must be like a symbol for something that they knew
Oh, yeah.
because that doesn't make any sense. You know what I mean?
Oh,
I
totally. Yeah.
don't,
On its
uh,
face. On it, and that's why it's not obvious to everybody what's going on, because if all of a sudden if they were doing something that was well known to everybody, they'd be like, okay, this is fishy. But it's just, oh, these guys are just being funny and ha ha ha, and then they do their
that's
thing.
so weird. Yeah. Yeah. And then when we look at it, we know, in the history, we've got all these weird secret societies. We've got Greek
Yeah.
living, which is huge here. And we've got all these like strange, like political things,
Yeah.
including the Council of 50. And this is where I kind of found another reference to the 7. Cause at first I thought, is this author just smoking opium? Because that was old days, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I was like, what's happening here? Why haven't I never heard of this? And they talk about
Sure.
Alpheus Cutler, and he
Uh-huh.
referred to the executive council within the Council of 50. So another one. And guess what it's called? The Quorum of 7. And Willard Richards serves as the historian and recorder. George Q. Cannon was also William Clayton,
Mm-hmm.
John Nuttall, John Taylor, John and William Whitaker Taylor, all involved in this. I can't find a ton of names because they don't talk about this.
Mm-hmm.
Also, J. Bracken Lee was part of this.
That
And
different time frame, obviously.
yeah, yeah. Because you can only find like the most minimal information ever on any of it. It's all obfuscated. And whenever you see something like that, you go, well, why? You know,
Mm-hmm.
but they did say part of the what was going on is they were trying to get rid of Governor Charles Mabee when they formed this. So back to your point about the governor and the blood in the
Yeah.
streets. I mean, I'm sure they were sick of it by this time. Not the same exact time frame, but maybe they just had enough. I have no idea, but it
Yeah.
seems very strange. That is for sure. We know this. We know those secret societies continued on even into President Nelson's day, who was just barely replaced because he passed.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think it would be. This is where I really agree with you, and this is what I was saying before we rolled: is why would you lie? It seems weird. I don't
Especially to
think
a
you did.
small group of people. So,
Yeah.
especially about that, right? So going back, maybe just as a reference, what we're saying is in his autobiography, he wrote himself. He says, "I'm a member of Skull and Bones," and And so Justin's position is that he lied about it. My position is why? What's the motive? You're giving this book to 200 people that a family and friends. Okay, so you have one scenario of your family and friends are good people, and they're gonna be like, what? Or they're insiders just like you, and they'll be like, if he's lying, they're like, no, you're not.
I mean, you're going to make everybody mad by saying, like, either the people you're in with, because you're not supposed to talk about it, mad, or the people that don't know anything about it and they're just faithful people. Like, it doesn't seem like it benefits him at all, at least to
Right.
me. I
Oh,
mean,
sure. Yeah.
I don't know, but
Well,
I
that's
definitely think it was in it.
let me see here. I'm just
And
gonna
his
try.
dad is an interesting character. Like,
Yeah. I'm gonna just real quick do a few. I'm gonna share my screen real
amazing.
quick.
Yeah, perfect.
Well, just not. I mean, you don't have to do anything. I'm just gonna do it on my side.
Okay.
If I can, there we go. So this is Nelson's autobiography, where he says that he's a member of Skull and Bones. Right. I was later honorary side of Skull and Bones. And then, so what'll happen is people that are mad at me for saying this is they'll say, well, clearly it wasn't a bad thing at that point, or the University of Utah organization is different than the Yale organization, something along those lines. But then I will draw your attention to a couple of other things that I think are relevant, because we have George W. Bush, and his autobiography says that he was a member of Skull and Bones. So you'll have to, if you're going to say that about Nelson, you're going to have to say the same thing about Bush. But then you have in 3rd Nephi, we have this scripture that says, and behold, I am Gidionhai, and I am the governor of the secret society of Gadianton, which society and the works thereof I know to be good, and they are of ancient date, and they have been handed down to us. So if these guys, they admit it, they have scenarios where they will confess that they are a part of a secret society. Are you going to say the Gadianton robbers aren't, during his day, because he admitted it couldn't have been a secret society? No, he's saying it was a secret society. Or George W. Bush. Are you going to say that Yale is a good thing and it's not a bad thing? The things they do at the Yale Skull and Bones. And so I'm just looking for consistency, and we have to apply the same rules to everyone. Otherwise, we're not being intellectually honest. And
yes.
So.
And people will say, oh, it's just a mamby-pamby little society not related to Yale at all. But you have information that says otherwise,
Oh, 100%. Yeah. I don't know if you want to go over that now.
Yeah, that would be great. Yeah, I know we're
Okay.
kind of skipping around, but it's okay. They'll follow. They're used to my ADD.
Okay, I'm just trying to see here. I get my PowerPoint going in the right.
You're good.
Direction.
And I mean, I'll just fill in a little bit here. It's just interesting to me too, that he definitely admits to being Alan Key. And that's when I first contacted you, because I'm like, wait,
well, Alan Key, that's in the record. It's in the yearbook.
Yeah.
That's,
Yeah. So why would he not be part, you know what I'm saying? Like of the other one.
The point that I made with Justin was that to say that he was Alan Key, but not Skull and Bones, is like saying, well, he was a priest, but he wasn't a deacon. Like, oh, and like, even if it's true.
Yeah, Alan Key's superior, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I'll show the documentation on that for those that maybe haven't seen.
Absolutely. And while you're looking for that, I would encourage you to look into one more thing that I do think and cannot prove, but you're a great researcher, so I thought I would share that at the same time frame as Dallin H. Oaks went to the University of Chicago, there was a society there called Alan Snake. Now, of course, there's no published anything about any of the members because it was super secret-y, but I'd sure bet he was a member of that.
I have a book coming out soon called The Intelligence Report of Dallin H. Oaks. So
awesome.
Stay tuned for that.
Oh, amazing. Love it.
So 1910. So the organization at Yale starts, back in the 1800s. But in 1910, a Yale alumni chapter forms at the University of Utah. So this is a jacket that actually somebody gave me. They're like, my father-in-law was a member, and his wife, he died, and his wife didn't want this sweater anymore. And so, would you like it? I was like, heck yeah.
Can't imagine why she didn't want that.
Bones,
Yikes.
memorabilia.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, it's not just like nothing, right?
Right. Right.
They don't make
So
jackets for, I mean,
so and it's formed by and so we have here their own this is in the Utonian, the Skull and Bones. This is the first year that it was in their yearbook, and when they talk about it. And so as you mentioned earlier, we have William Brewster. He is I think it was Anglican bishop, if I remember correctly. um and I apologize if that's not
I
exactly
can't
correct. I can't
remember.
remember what
Sorry.
denomination he was. But I know it wasn't Catholic, because I thought it was Catholic, and then I talked to a Catholic and he said no, that's something else. And so but he was a Skull and Bones member at Yale, and he moved out to Utah because he was a bishop at a church out here. And he was told to form a Yale alumni association in Utah. And then in that same time, and everybody at that Yale association here in Utah was a member of Skull and Bones at Yale. And then they was told to form this chapter at the University of Utah. So to say that there are two, they just happen to have the same name, baloney. It's the same organization. It's just like, a different ward from from an LDS perspective. It would be the distinction. It's the same organization, just a different chapter.
Right. And I don't know if you've seen the picture of Baby Bush. I like to call him Baby Bush.
Yeah.
Because and Thomas S. Monson shaking hands, but clearly they know some nice handshakes. It wasn't just Freemasonic.
Oh,
I
and
mean,
if there's video of Hinckley and Dick Cheney doing the same thing at BYU. I don't know
see,
if you've seen
yep.
that.
No, no. And
And then
I
there's
mean,
another one of David O. McKay and JFK.
oh wow. That's interesting. That's an
Yeah.
interesting one. And so this is not like their own little crazy idea. This is a literal sister society, I
Yeah.
think.
No, oh, no, it's a chapter of the same principal organization. And I'm trying to see if I have it. Well, I mean, I've got it packed in a box to keep it safe, but I had
Right,
somebody
right.
give me. I'm just looking real quick as we're doing this, looking in my book on the Skull and Bones. I'll just go to can't remember what page it's on, but 110. So I had somebody reach out. They'd seen one of my videos, and they're like, "Oh, my relative. I'm trying to keep it as ambiguous as possible, just for protection of the people, just in case." But they were invited to be a member of Skull and Bones, but they're like, "That's weird. I'm not going to do that." And so I said, "Can I have the letter?"
Ooh.
And they're like, "Sure." And so we meet up, and I'm like, am I going to get killed on the way to do this? But
Yeah.
um, this is in my book. I have a picture of it. There we go.
Awesome.
This is the envelope where it has the seal, the wax seal on the
Oh.
envelope of the
Yep.
invitation, and it says 322. It is the same seal as the Skull and Bone organization at Yale. So from where we're
Wow.
going back to the founders were Yale Skull and Bones members to today, they're still using the same symbols. So it is the
And they
same
came
organization.
he came somebody came out from Yale and he even said, I see you know that I'm a Yale man and you gave me
Yeah.
these cheers and like I mean yeah. I don't think they're just being nice,
Exactly.
Ugh,
So just
I
going
wish
back to, go ahead.
I just said I wish this was out more. Yeah.
Oh, totally. Yeah. Well, hopefully your
Yes.
viewers can help magnify this. So this is in the yearbook, Utonian. It says the society is a secret one, and their ways are deep and mysterious. And then here we have another yearbook year. It says Skull and Bones makes us believe in infanticide. So what's infanticide?
Yikes.
The
Yeah.
murder of born. This isn't just abortion. This is the murder of born babies.
What
That's
were
just
they up
bizarre.
to?
Who puts that? Like, that's not a joke. Like, that's.
No.
So we have here this article: Tom Morrow, while being initiated into Skull and Bones, goes temporarily insane. So people will say, well, obviously, the initiation was different at Yale as it was at University of Utah. Well, it is so disturbing that this guy went insane.
Wow.
Going through the initiation process. He went crazy. And in fact, in there, it says Tom Morrow A private student crazed through too zealous study of the skeleton is seen raving about the vicinity of the university. Prexy frantically telephones the police, explaining that the university will pay all expenses to Provo. So this guy's gone insane from the initiation and just goes nuts and starts causing some kind of a property damage in Provo.
Mm.
And so the head of the university calls up the police department and says, "Hey, don't worry about it. Don't do anything to him. We'll take care of everything that he did." Like,
Who does that? That
right.
doesn't just happen.
No, yeah.
No.
If you get some frat house that causes property damage in Provo today from University of Utah, he's going to go to jail. He's going to have whatever consequence of the damage that he did is going to be on him, and nothing's going to happen. I mean, nothing is going to get covered up. Nothing is going to get. The university is not going to call the police department and say, "Don't worry about it. We got it covered."
Right.
And so
No, just
so that
because.
shows us as well that it's not just the kids that are involved. These organizations have university leadership sanction and involvement.
Right.
That's an important aspect because it is not just about kids in college doing crazy stuff. This Skull and Bones as an organization is geared toward postgraduate. What are they going to do as adults the rest of their life to serve the means of the order?
Wow. Yeah, there's no way they're just getting people. They're not paying for things and bouncing people out of the state facility for nothing.
Yeah.
That's silly. Absolutely silly to me.
And then
Oh
when the
boy.
university paper interviews members today, this is how they show up to the interview, which is the same outfits that they wear in the leaked videos at Yale. And so, this is just a fun little thing for elite students to have, a good time in serving their
Halloween.
community.
Yeah, no.
Why, this is not normal behavior.
Definitely not. Have you ever been to the games where they do something called charging the house at the
I've never
U?
heard of
This is interesting. So I had never heard of it, and I cannot find anything about it. But my son, he goes to the games sometimes, and he came home and he said, "Mom, I just want to pray with you because I felt really weird about this thing that happened today." And I said, "What? You're just at a football game? What do you mean?" He said, "Yeah, but when they were waiting to do the game again, they took a little break or whatever." He said that they did this thing called charging the house, and they bring out this torch and everybody does these certain things and like gets up, and it's kind of like a tiny ritual. And I was like, "That's weird." I'm very glad you did not.
With Super
At the
Bowl
football.
halftime shows where
Yeah,
they're trying to get the whole audience engaged in their ritual.
yeah, it was weird. And even the name charging the house, that sounds very occultish. We'll just say that. I mean, and so we know these things continued, and it doesn't mean that the whole church continued them. And I always try to explain to people, look, you cannot lump all these people together with these other people because it just doesn't work like that. I know that, Southern Utah became a very interesting place. And it got weird, and they have been in a lot of trouble with Levitt and all the things, I mean, yeah, it got weird. We'll just leave it at that, because they're still alive and, whatever. But unless you want to speak on it, but it isn't everybody. Like, please don't think, because this is what I get all the time. My lady, that's a neighbor, is the nicest lady ever, and there's no way she's a Mormon and she bakes me cookies, and I'm like, don't be naive. Like, there's a lot of Mormons, of course. It's not everybody. How would they know?
Right.
I don't know.
If it was everybody, it'd be a lot different. I mean, you have a lot less covering your butt ability to be able to do that kind of stuff, and you have a lot more leaking of things that are going on.
Right, because you might freak somebody out, like this, obviously, poor guy.
Right. Yeah.
And there's more than just Nelson involved.
Well,
Bennett,
like yourself, you're an Exmo. Were you a member of Skull and Bones? Were you a satanic ritual abuser?
Nope.
I mean, obviously, come on.
Dodge that bullet.
Every Exmo would be exposing this, this aspect of it if it was everybody, right?
Right. Exactly. It can't be. It's always been a big club and you're not in it. But like, I don't think that's true. I think it's a small club. and we're not in it. Like they have, they have to have the club on top of the club. Just like I read to you, they have the quorum of the
Yeah.
50, and now this seven's the quorum of the seven. Like nobody's heard of that. That's some obscure book that's just old on a dusty bookshelf that nobody cares about anymore.
Well,
And that,
most members don't even know about the Council of 50. I mean, which
oh,
is
no way.
insane.
Yeah. And it continued. Of course, they say it ended. Okay. Right. Like that's why the Khashoggis are having meetings with the prophets of the church later. What? Quit it. There's obviously secret combinations, which I love that you say that in all of your stuff going on. Like it, period. And basically, it gets kind of frightening knowing where it went and knowing that, we've got these organizations, we've got the NWO, which comes in,
Yeah.
we've got key players like Bob Bennett is a treasure trove of nightmare for so much of this. And I feel bad because everybody said he was the nicest guy, but I'm like, he's involved in Watergate. He's involved in the Mormon Mafia. He's
The nice,
involved.
to me, it's, remember, have you seen, what's it called? The Manchurian Candidate?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
What was the response when they had to talk about their boss, right? What did they always say? He was the
Nicest
nicest,
guy.
it was always this mantra of he's the nicest, I can't remember what the exact thing is, but it's everybody said the same thing. And then the nicest guy is what is always said about all these people. That's what people said about Mitt Romney. That's what people said about, you just name the person that's in power that is a Satanist, and you'll have a defender say, but he's the nicest guy. And it's just, to me, like if somebody says so and so in power is the nicest guy, I'm like, okay, he's probably evil, because
Yep.
that's
Yeah.
what people always say about the worst people.
It's so true. And Ted, for example, Ted Bundy's neighbors said he was
Right.
great.
Yep.
So, you just have to be on guard and know and look at Utah's history. Like even the Beehive, like, come on. I mean, for those that don't know, the Illuminati was almost called the Perfectibilists, and they almost named it the bees, like literally. So I'm like, wait a minute, that's concerning. That's a little weird, that's a little strange. And maybe it's not nefarious. We can do a lot of maybes, but maybe it
You can do
is.
a lot of maybes.
Yeah. Yeah. We don't know. And but we do know some things, right? We absolutely do know certain things. And that's
Yeah.
what we're trying to put out there because it's concerning when you see, okay, now we've got Skull and Bones, we've got secret societies, we've got the Greek living system and the Federal Reserve here. Heber J. Grant, also a treasure trove. And apparently he had the blackest eyes this guy's ever seen that talked about him. Like, I don't know. It's kind of frightening. That was
Well,
a
what's interesting
quote.
about the Federal Reserve and Heber J. Grant, I don't know if we want to get to that right. I mean,
Yeah.
just right
Yeah.
now.
That'd be
I'm going to
great.
say it anyways, whether you want to or not. During general conference. So, like, if you're an Exmo, you know why that's a big deal. If you don't, right, I don't know how to explain it to you, but it's a big deal. And so at conference, he's telling the story of how he met with the head of Mr. Lynch, the head of the Federal Reserve, and he said, I said to Mr. Lynch, the head of the Federal Reserve, you put over us any requirement if you will just bring us a branch of the Federal Reserve and we will do it. And then he goes on to say, and we did our part. We went, millions of dollars into debt within 6 months. Doing our part and going into debt is doing our part. That's just bizarre. And so he's admitting in conference that he was the reason why Salt Lake, of all places, in 1913, or not 1913, but in the 1920s at this point, because it formed in 1913, but by the 1920s, why does Utah, which is still kind of an out there place, Salt Lake, is still kind of out there nationally speaking, why is a branch of the Federal Reserve coming there? It's because Heber J. Grant, as president of the church, promises the head of the Federal Reserve that the people will be obedient. We will do whatever you require of us if you bring us a branch. Why do you want
And
to
we've got,
branch that back?
yeah. And we've got the railroads too at this point. And
Yeah.
all these people filtering through where you're like, wait, that doesn't have anything to do with this, but it does. Like Stanford comes up. I don't know if you've seen that research with the people that formed Stanford. Very interesting. Roots there with, the Mormons and all the different things there. But we've got all this stuff coming together, like you said, right? And we've
Yeah.
got the Federal Reserve happening, which the Mormons, for people that don't know, We're supposed to be in the world, but not of the world. Okay. So it is surprising to see that they've ran away from the government and they've been
Hmm.
persecuted so badly that,
Hmm.
people are dying and everything. Okay. Men,
Yeah.
women, and children. And
And I
so,
think, frankly, if you look at the records, the church undersells what happened to them. They
oh,
don't they
they
don't
have,
actually get
yeah,
into actually what happens.
they're not going to tell that story because then nobody would ever come out here.
No.
Like, I mean, really, if you heard that and you
Well,
were
I mean, today,
somewhere
because we've,
else,
Exmos always say we've got a persecution complex, but the organization, when they talk about the Missouri persecutions, they leave out the violent rapes, the babies being thrown against trees, just the most horrific, disgusting animal things that people could do to somebody else. And for whatever reason, I don't know why, never bring out how bad
the
it actually
truth.
was.
Right. And they didn't ever trust the government. So it makes no
No.
sense to me that they're getting in bed with the government, right? Because look at what happened to them. I mean, they're killing people like horrifically. They're doing all this stuff. Why would you want the thumb of the government back? Like even if you wanted to play nice because of the whole blood in the streets, okay?
Yeah.
And I get that. I get that for sure. Like if you saw that, if you had all that persecution happen, you saw
Yeah.
those things happen, you would want to chill out, like and be careful. Please, you'd be like, come on, I
Yeah.
just want to live my life. Like you've been uprooted a bunch, but at the end of the day, it makes no sense why all of a sudden they get in bed with the government and then they're besties with every president. I have a book called Presidents and Prophets.
Oh, me too.
Hello. Yeah, it's interesting. And then we're in bed with three-letter agencies, and it just becomes like LDS Inc., not the LDS Church, because I refuse to do that to people that are honest and good people. Like that's not what
Right.
they are. It's or I always call them porch Mormons, right? Like
Right.
because you have to have normal people or you can't hide. You can't.
Right.
And so, all of these people have no idea of this. I didn't. I
Well,
I had
it's
no
really the
clue.
shift with Godby and Grant is where it happens, is because Grant, when he gets in as president of the church, he actually talks, he brags. He's like, one of the things that I'm so excited about my time as president of the church is that the persecutions have stopped and that everybody loves us. And so really it's what was Godby's agenda? Godby's agenda was to stop what their economic system that Brigham Young was doing, and he was trying to stop the political system that Brigham Young was doing, and he wanted to merge Mormonism with the world, especially the metropolitan New York style, world. And so that is what Heber J. Grant was raised with, that as being the ideal. And so he starts to implement exactly what Godby wanted, but was excommunicated for.
And I know people don't love this, but the occult underpinnings of Godby is
Oh, it's
interesting.
it's
And
blatant.
yeah, yeah, he's in a club. That's for
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I don't want to be in that club. It's
And that's when
scary.
the persecution stops, is when they start adopting the world, is when and that's when everything becomes hunky-dory, everybody's friendly. And then now the persecution we get is, people saying F you, and like, oh, come on. We need to, if we're going to be treated seriously and you can't handle somebody swearing at you, you know, there's, we are not getting the persecution that our ancestors received.
No,
And you're
no,
a clown if you
definitely.
try to pretend it is the same.
Right. No, no way. And I think the things they originally tried to do, and I don't know how you feel about this, but I think Brigham was compromised at some point. I mean, I feel bad saying that, but because I know you, but I'll let you
Mm-hmm.
answer that before I go
Okay.
further because I want
Well,
to
I mean,
say
you're
anything
fine. I mean,
weird.
I don't care if you have it. I mean, I don't have that opinion, but if you've got that opinion, that's fine.
Yeah, I just worry about the people he was importing to like run BYU. That guy, that Mazer guy, Maeser, he's a
Yeah.
relation to Peter Thiel,
Mm-hmm.
like directly, and different people there that you just see them. And maybe it was just the fact, just like James Strang, right? Maybe he just put his trust in the wrong people, and that's very possible. It's not like he wasn't
Very
busy. He
possible.
had like 50 something wives. That's a nightmare.
There's a church to run, and day in
Ugh.
and day out.
Yeah, just the wives alone would take me out. That women are difficult. Sorry. Man, I'd feel bad for anybody that's got more than one. But it's true. Like he had a lot going on. He had a lot on his plate. Things
Yeah.
were happening and they were, branching out, but you can't trust every single person because people get compromised all the time. Look at Godby. He
Oh,
wasn't
sure.
originally like that, but I
Well, no, he
love
was actually. So when he converted, he said he was a Robert Owen Mormon.
this is what I
And
wanted
so
to say. Yes.
today, everybody's like, nobody knows who Robert Owen is. And if you met somebody that said, I'm a convert to the church and I'm a Robert Owen Mormon, like, what are you talking about, you psycho? And
That's funny.
but Robert Owen, for people that don't know, he is the true father of communism. He was the one that trained Karl Marx and Frederick Engels. But who trained Robert Owen? Madame Blavatsky, and who's the Theosophical Society, who began as the Lucifer Society, the Lucis Trust, and so you have this guy who, the very beginning in Europe, he was a convert from England. He was into the occult. I would say he was a bad apple to begin with, and I don't know if he had the intention of infiltrating or if he just, saw things on the peripheral and he's like, this is, but then when he finally gets here and he starts going to these seances, and the spirits are telling him that you can't trust Joseph Smith, you can't trust Brigham Young, you can't trust the Doctrine and Covenants, but what you're doing is important, and so you need to spend more of your time trying to influence the members of the church, and so that way they do these things, and so you have that obvious influence on him that is going on, and it's crazy is a lot of this data comes from. Do I have it in? I've just moved some of my shelves around, but there BYU published published a biography of William Godby, and they're like
Mm.
listing. I'm like, you do not understand what you're saying, because if you did understand what you're saying, BYU wouldn't be publishing this.
They would have hid this deep in the archives
Yeah,
underneath the temple. I mean, it is wild to me the things they will sometimes put out, which is, I mean,
I think it's
I
because
don't
they don't know
know.
what they're saying.
Yeah.
They don't understand the connections and the implications.
Right, right. And the theosophy connection is really interesting because there are some branches of Mormonism that branch off into spiritualism
Oh
and
yeah.
universalism and
Yep.
all this weird stuff even at the beginning, at the inception. And we have to know that like every Mormon you meet may not be the same kind of Mormon. I really want to stress that because people people are like persecuting grandmas or something. This is not that. We're not doing that, okay? But there definitely are these government changes, and I'm not sure when, you want to pinpoint like where did that flip happen? Like I know the wars come into play, World War I and World War II
Oh no,
definitely.
it really starts with 1890s. It really starts with that point, and you really have where you have the previous leaders, pound sand, we're doing our own thing, and then you have a point where in 18, so you've got the Edmunds Tucker bill that is going after the church. It's the first legislation actually that goes after religion in schools. We always think about the 60s and anti-prayer in schools, but we're talking 1870s when the federal government says you can't have religion in your schools in Utah. And so that it wasn't just about plural marriage. It disincorporated the church. The church as a legal entity no longer existed. Um, it had all kinds of disenfranchised. So if you were a member of the church that was practicing plural marriage, you were stripped of all rights of citizenship. You couldn't vote, you couldn't serve on a jury, you couldn't own property, all that kind of stuff. And so in November of 1889, Wilford Woodruff has a revelation where he's going to the Lord and saying, do we get rid of this? What do we do, to get the government off our back? And in the revelation, the Lord says, no, I mean, and this is not the first time. 1886, the church just released this revelation. The Lord said, no, we're not going to get rid of this. So 1889, he says it again. He says that, anybody that fights against, my laws and my principles and my people, that they're going to receive a just punishment. And so don't make any more compromises. So that's November of 1889, which at that same time period, Congress has introduced the Colm-Strumble bill, which says we don't care what you're doing. If you're a polygamist, if you're a monogamist, we don't care. You're a Mormon, you are now disenfranchised, and everybody in the entire church is now, if this bill passes, has all rights of citizenship stripped from them. And so if you're accused of any crime, everybody in the jury is somebody that wants to throw you in the clinker. And so, I mean, it's if that had actually gone through, and so we go fast forward to April of 1890, and the leadership of the church is going to members of what we have James Blaine, who was a Bohemian Grove guy, and he is working with them, and they make and they say, you're authorized to say that we're going to do something. This is April of 1890. We're going to get rid of this. And so James Blaine tells them, he says, because so they actually they kill the bill, and James Blaine says that we might have been able to help you out this time, but we're going to keep going after you until you guys get into line. And so we're going to keep you guys caved in for this. And so we caved in and we stopped this bill. But until you guys really start doing whatever we say, we're going to keep coming after you. And so it was a part of so you have April, where we're already promising to give up plural marriage, but they can't really say that publicly. And so then we go to September of 1890 is when the manifesto comes out, and that's when it's public that's what the church is doing. And so you have that, and then a year later you have I think it's a year later, 1891, 1890, between 1891 and 1893, the leaders of the church file a amnesty request with the federal government to drop all the problems and say, okay, we can be a church again and we can get our property back and all that kind of stuff. And so they make the promise not only is plural marriage a promise, but they promise to give up the idea of the political kingdom of God. And like you said, the People's Party and those types of things, they, as a part of the amnesty agreement, they promise to, we're getting rid of that. And that's when, and so there's this mythology in Mormonism where people think Brigham Young said, we went to a meeting one day and you're half of the congregation, you're Republican, your half is Democrat. Baloney, never happened. It was the 1890s when the church says, okay, everybody needs to start joining the national parties. And so that's when they start. So they get rid of plural marriage, they get rid of the kingdom of God concepts. And then as you move on to the 1900s, you start to, every thing that separates Mormonism from, apostate Christianity is erased basically until we're at the situation that we're at today.
And there's been prophets that play ball and some that didn't, I feel like there was some that tried to push back. I mean, honestly, and I don't think it was met well. I mean, and I feel bad for
and
this
some
situation.
Started off one way, like Ezra Taft Benson, when he was called by Grant. He was actually called by Grant. And if you read his books before his first European mission, they were all similar to Grant's mentality. But then Benson goes on his mission to Europe, and he does a complete 180. And it seems like that's when the other members of the 12 kind of start turning against him. And you have a lot of those problems between him and Hubie Brown and that kind of stuff.
Well, it seems like when they go to Europe, a lot of them go to Europe, and a lot of them they must be going somewhere there that's like a mystery school or something. They're learning something there that, we're not privy to. And obviously that would never get out, but it does make you wonder, right? Like, did they really go on a mission, or did they go on a learning thing? Like, I don't know, but you're right. It changes
with
things.
Benson, I don't know, because it seems like that's when they go again. That's
when they get against him. Yeah.
They go against him.
But maybe it didn't work. Maybe they sent him to it and he said, nah, like the guy that rejected the letter,
maybe, yeah, I don't know. Yeah.
Maybe. I mean, it's interesting. We'll never know, but I definitely wonder.
I don't know. Sometimes letters come out. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Sometimes history happens.
Awesome. I would love to see that, because it just definitely seems like there's been some that had like the best intentions, and then it will flip around, or you'll see this mutiny, right? Like, oh, he didn't flip around, and now we've got to have a talk.
You have people now, like I have friends that are really close, either, because people, that's a while ago. So like their parents were a part of, in the inner circles and that kind of stuff. So like Reed Benson, for example, one of Ezra Taft Benson's sons, was, he was basically, he said his dad went away, not because of health issues, but because he was done talking to folks. And it was basically Hinckley that was running things at that point. And then you have the family of H. Verlin Anderson. They he was good friends with Benson, and they would communicate back and forth to each other, and people at church headquarters would actually hide the letters so Benson wouldn't get Anderson's letters. And then Benson wants to call Anderson to the 12 and the other members of the 12. This is according to the family.
Right.
That the members of the 12 say no, you can't call Anderson, and then they
Mm.
say this is who you're going to call the 12. And
Eh.
so this is even him as president of the church is even having to submit to the other members of the 12. And so and so there is there a paper trail of this? No, you're gonna have to believe me that this is
Right.
what family members of these individuals are saying to me.
But we're here and we're in the belly of the beast. Like, come on. I mean,
Yeah.
we have more access than most would,
Yeah.
honestly. And we see the persecution of the people that do try to live the words of Joseph Smith. And I'm not saying, look, I don't talk a lot about polygamy because I certainly do not care what adults do. I do care about kids. That's it.
Sure.
But if you even look at, okay, my sister married Warren Jeff's nephew, and he's like
Oh,
on
wow.
both sides. Yeah. And they're divorced now, but he's out. He got out and everything before, and he even speaks up. He wrote a book, but he's talking about, different things that happen in these communities where they're super persecuted. Why? It's not just the polygamy, because he said before Warren, everybody was over 18 and yes, are they brainwashed? Sure. But were they underage and weird stuff? No, and they still persecute those people. But yet we see
Mhm.
people like the Kingstons who are financing the Romneys and definitely in bed with them. So you definitely see it throughout the state. We see this kind of stuff. And you also
Yeah.
see people's names disappear from church, right? Like Ezra Taft Benson was a huge name. It should have gone on but it just doesn't,
Well, even
like
during his administration, there was called the purge of individuals that were excommunicated, and on the list of things that you could be excommunicated for, while he's president of the church, was focusing too much on the teachings of Ezra Taft Benson. And can you imagine
okay.
someone being excommunicated today for focusing too much on the teachings of
Gosh.
Dallin H. Oaks?
How do you
It's seen
sustain
as insane.
the prophet if you can't read and sustain the prophet? That's actually stupid. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's awful that they did that. What the
Yeah.
heck? That just seems so silly to me. Like, you can't read his own works, his own words out of his mouth and sustain him as a prophet. Like, what are you talking about? But we know why. He was, I mean, he was more honest. And some of them aren't. And, that's men, like, and women. I don't like to group men. We're talking about men because it's a patriarchy in this, but that's people. People are going to people, and some people can be bought and some people can't. That's
Yeah.
just the way it is. And you see it with certain ones, like even Cleon Skousen. I can't believe they even let him put those books out, a bunch of them, like or D. Michael Quinn, right? Like, we see this, and yes, they do discredit them hardcore. And I'm not saying they
Mhm.
didn't do bad things or have some issue. Like, we know, both of them did. Okay. But also, does that make what they said any less true?
Right.
No.
Yeah.
No.
We have to be able to. We can't attack personalities. That's what you do when you can't attack the argument. And
Yep.
so, sure, do you find motives and that kind of a thing? Sure. But, we have to actually say, okay, are we attacking the person because we can't attack the idea?
Right. And Cleon Skousen was one that was kind of singing from the hills. Him and John A. Witso, that was the name I was looking for before.
Uh,
John A. Witso wrote that book. If you've not read that, the Under the Sunlit Land or something, I
no.
have it and I bought it. It's not expensive. And he's low key he is trying in the nicest way possible to not get excommunicated. He's kind of like, there's a conspiracy happening, and I would rather be a garbage man than a teacher. And he said that. He said that. And I was
That's
laughing
funny.
so bad. I was like, he's trying. I don't know. I feel bad for him kind of, because it was like he kept saying they're trying to get rid of Mormonism, period, and Mormons and
Right.
lead them to this other thing. And I mean, we know it goes into other things because we get characters like, Romney. And I mean, George is doing some very interesting things. He takes off to Mexico, right? Like, he's there
Oh,
and born
George. Oh
there.
my
Yeah.
heck.
George, no one talks about him. Everybody talks about Mitt. And I'm
Well,
like,
people think I've heard this so many times. Like, oh yeah, Mitt went bad, but his dad. I'm like, no, dude, George was bad news.
George is scary. I mean, we got Kathy O'Brien saying he was her handler. We've got crazy stuff politically. I mean, we can't prove some of it, right? But we can prove the political stuff. We can prove
Yeah.
that. We've got these people, like you said, basically in bed, a lot of them with the government. And that for some reason that happens. Like it's very strange. Like Dallin H. Oaks is basically, over BYU, but he's recruiting like crazy for 3-letter agencies. And that's proven. That's in a CIA or FBI FOIA doc. Like that's not me saying that. That's real. Um, he got let go because of that. But it's not anything new. It's weird, kind of. It's like these teachers end up like that. Like I don't know if do you know about the gays, and Howard Hughes and Bill Gay? That if you don't, it's
Oh,
a
you said the
rabbit
gays. I
hole.
was like, I
Oh,
thought you were
sorry.
talking.
No, I know he has the worst name ever. I'm sorry.
The gay.
Yeah,
Oh, even that wouldn't work out so well. Okay, no, I'm not aware of that. No.
the family of Bill Gay, and
Well, their
he
last name is
was.
gay. Okay.
Yeah, it's so rough. And so he was like basically a runner for errands for Howard Hughes, and he ends up taking over his whole empire, including Howard Hughes Medical Institute.
Wow.
He is the backer for why we have genealogy computerized today
Hmm.
through Hughes Dynamics. And I do a whole show on this with the Mormon Mafia, but these people continue today. Like so, Heather Gay is one of the Real Housewives of Salt Lake City, which I don't
Wow.
watch that per se, but like I know who she is because of the family. But she even let it out. She's like, "Oh, my husband's kind of Mormon royalty," which he 100% is. And who was that guy's father? Robert C. Gay, who's in bed with Romney at the beginning of all the shenanigans with Mitt, and what with BCCI and everything. So like it got him fired from the quorum of the 70, this Robert C. Gay. And like it's interesting, but even her, she's like kind of saying some things, but her dad was an FBI agent who becomes a teacher. And I'm like, okay, this is nonsense. Like they're just recruiting. This is what it I mean, doesn't take a genius to figure out this guy's like basically the Indiana Jones of the state of Utah going, and he's like over the special relics committee and won all these awards, big fancy special guy in the FBI. And now, nah, he just became a high school teacher. Don't worry about it. What? Like it happens on and on now, and we see it. And I'm like, oh, this is a little interesting, especially where you've brought up like Garrett Gong and Huntsman. Oh my gosh. All these people
Oh
that
yeah.
are definitely in the club. Yeah. I'll let you talk on that if
And
you
Garrett
would
Gong's
like.
books, like it's kind of like Nelson's autobiography. As soon as Nelson became a member of the 12, I'm not Nelson. As soon as Gong became a member of the 12, poof, all the books that he wrote are gone.
And but you still found stuff. You
Oh
I
yeah,
mean,
no, I was able to. I was some of like his book on civilization. I'm trying to think of where if I have it right here, but his main book on civilization, it was like $200. I mean, it's not as expensive as Nelson's biography, but $200 is I mean that nothing to sneeze at for a book. And then other documents that he wrote, and we have on our is that on our YouTube channel? I think it's on a Rumble channel. I have testimony that he gave before Congress as a member of these foreign relations type organizations, and so yeah, just these
and
globalist institutions, and he is a member of. I mean, he was a what's it called?
CFR, wasn't he a
Well,
CFR
he was
member?
CFR,
Yeah.
which find that find they have all of the CFR membership rosters except for the year that he was there. I was thankfully able to find somebody that actually had a physical copy of it, and they scanned it for me and sent me the PDF of it. But when he was in college, I'm talking about the Rhodes. He was a Rhodes
Oh,
Scholar,
Rhodes Scholar.
and
Oh,
if you
wow.
understand what that means, I mean that's a pretty big deal all by itself. If he wasn't even Rhodes Scholar then CFR, I mean come on.
Whoa. Yeah, and Huntsman, like he's all over everything. And then he kind of quietly, he used to be it was like a always you'd hear about Huntsman. And now he's kind of quietly, you know, it calmed down.
Oh
Yeah.
sure. Well, and
Yeah.
Huntsman, where did he make his announcement for president? You know,
I don't.
at the Alta Club.
Oh my. Oh boy. So
And
he's
then
showing them who he is at that point, probably then.
who's the only Utahn that's in the Epstein Black Book?
Oh, oh,
John Huntsman.
oh no. Was Gong in that one or
Nope.
no? Just
Nope.
Huntsman.
just
Wow.
Huntsman. And there was a video of somebody. There was I can't remember the organization that did an investigation where they were able to ping um, cell phones of the visitors to the island,
Oh,
and there was
geez.
only one flight that goes from Salt Lake to the island,
Oh
on that
no.
trip. And I'm like, I'm not saying, don't sue me for defamation. I'm not saying it was
Right.
Huntsman, but it was only one flight from Salt Lake. I mean, only, and then only one Utah is in the black book. I'm not saying it was him,
Right.
but there's some questions.
Oh, definitely. And especially like I said, with this whole gay thing, this gay
Yeah, yeah.
family, they merged with Huntsman. That's HGGC, Huntsman Gay. That's what it is. And so like these people are all absolutely connected, and that spreads out clear to the whole like it doesn't have to just be Mormons at that point, because then we get into Nevada, and if you think Utah is corrupt, holy moly.
Well, I think it's kind of like the thing where, like, people blame it's the Jews, right?
Oh
And if
yeah.
you say it's the Jews or it's the Mormons or it's the, to me it's Satanism, and there are individuals in every group. Otherwise, Satanism wouldn't have very much influence if it was just one group. And so
Right.
they infiltrate every organization.
100%. I always say
And
it's the elites. It's the elites of every one of the most important people, like the Jesuits, the Mormons,
and
the Jews.
if you're in Massachusetts, you're not going to as much. You're not going to infiltrate the Mormons, right? You're gonna go after you're more Catholic or Democrat. That's where you're gonna go after. And so
Hmm.
you look at the institutions that are the most powerful where you're at, and that's where the conspiracy will have its biggest focus on.
Absolutely. Yeah. And Mormons are just kind of important for one reason.
Hey,
Everybody says
Desert,
it's,
hold on. I'm sorry. My
oh,
daughter
you're good.
just
No,
bumped
no,
my
you're good.
camera.
No,
Say
you're good.
hi.
Hi.
Say hi. I'm gonna.
Oh,
You bumped the
hi.
camera, sweetie.
Are you
I
like
love you.
4, 5?
Yeah, you're
Mhm.
4. She's 4.
You're
So
cute. Hello.
I love you.
That's okay. I
Okay,
understand.
I'm gonna
I
move
got
our
a
camera
lot.
real quick, guys.
You're fine.
I hope it doesn't cause you too much editing to have to do.
Nah, don't worry. No worries. Kids are kids. I get it totally. But yeah, for us, living here in Utah, I think it's extra concerning just because of the fact that they did try so hard to literally leave the United States, and yeah, that didn't even work, I mean, of
Yeah,
course, we see Brigham recontact about the railroads, so that's why I always wonder like what was up with that. And he gets in with
yeah,
Harriman and all that, and then it gets weird. But I mean, I also know they were sick and tired of being broke. I mean, I don't know what you do,
yeah,
at the time. What are you going to invest in? Railroads, mining, blah blah blah. Like, I mean, there's only so many things back then. Farming. Um, and so they had to work with what they had. But definitely, we see this curveball, and like you said, it's okay for maybe back east, it's, Jesuits, for other people, it's Jews. But I always like to say, and I only use the Freemasons as an example, they're certainly not the only one. But when you look at the people that band together without prejudice, right, it becomes very interesting. Very
yep.
interesting.
Well, and all the connections, right? Because in the book I also talk about how Woodruff, well, and it was Grant. It's just going back to Grant again. I'm going to be like the
I
anti-Grant
I
guy.
I like, yeah, no, you're good.
But
I
so
don't like
Grant
him.
and this other guy, Colonel Trumbo, is this guy that he's not a member of the church, but his parents were, so they all know each other. So Grant and Trumbo are trying to figure out how to get money for the church. You're talking about, we're broke. What are you getting? What are you going to do? And so the church is trying to get money because of all the stuff that the government's stolen all their property. They're just broke as broke could be. And so Grant goes to California with Trumbo, and he says, okay, we've got these bankers that will give the church money. Just come meet with us. And so where do they meet? It's in San Francisco at the Bohemian Club. They didn't meet at the Grove, but they meet at the organization that owns the Grove. They meet at their club in San Francisco. And so that's when you start to see this, it's really, and that's when on that trip there, Woodruff dies. So some people say, what was he killed by them?
Makes you
Some people
wonder.
confuse the Grove with the club. And so I always want to make clear that just the data, and I'm not making defense of anything. The data shows that he did not go to the Grove. They went to the club, and it was to get money for the church. And so that's when you start to see that stuff. And then you see in the 1920s or the 30s, I think it was the 20s, when Grant finally gets he mortgages off Temple Square. And that's when really start to see the turnaround financially speaking.
Right. And I think they didn't really gain their power back, at least what I saw, until later. And it shows because we get David M. Kennedy, treasure trove of nightmares. Like, I mean, he's in with Sindona and everybody, but we see this, flip of like, okay, we're getting money from all over. Even they say there was loans made by the Rothschilds to the Mormons, but the proof of that is sketchy at best. We can't unless but anyway, from what I've seen, it's a
unless you make a
known
connection
unknown.
like the Rothschilds own this bank, which owns that bank,
Right.
that kind
Yes.
of a thing maybe, but
Yeah, that's how it plays out. And then eventually it flips around, right, with David M. Kennedy, and he's loaning their church money with the Catholics. And then all of a sudden in 2019, they let us build a temple. But yeah, I think it's strange that the Vatican would allow that all of a sudden when they had pushed back for so long. And like basically in our temple ceremony, like early on, like Mormons are like Catholics and Protestants are the devil, and like nobody's getting along. Okay, that's for sure.
Yeah,
Oh
yes, for
boy.
sure. And then now you get Nelson calling him Your Holiness, and that kind of a thing. And so,
do
totally
you want?
something.
Well, it'll be in your book. I mean, I find it very curious that the current Pope and Dallin H. Oaks both have major Chicago connections. So,
Isn't Chicago interesting? And so
isn't
does
Chicago
Mike Lee and all that kind of stuff. But you have really a big power shift comes along. We have Grant, and we have a contemporary with Grant, in connection to the Federal Reserve. You have Eccles, and Eccles is like the guy that is the connection between. He's like the only banker in Utah that doesn't go bankrupt during the Great Depression, and then he's the first, head of the Federal Reserve, and they do the statue of him, and he comes to BYU encouraging them to have small families and join, be good globalists. And so that's really when we start to see the big power change amongst Mormons and the world.
Isn't that interesting? Yeah,
and that's why you see the word Eccles on every building in Utah. That's that connection to the family.
If not Huntsman, it is Eccles. That is for sure, but never gay because that might be weird. But I'm just teasing.
We're going to the gay building.
I know. And I mean, it's just unfortunate with the last name, but he definitely filtered. He was actually involved in the whole scandal with Watergate that goes to Bennett. And so we see all of this stuff and you go,
who was Skull and Bones?
Yeah, exactly. And that's what it all boils back to are these secret societies, it's weird that, we were warned, whether I believe in Joseph Smith or not, he was onto something there, and, people like to say, well, he was a Mason and stuff. And I'm like, yeah, he was, but I don't know how that came about, especially where he married, the guy that was anti-Mason's wife later, Lucinda Pendleton, William, the one they kidnapped, and it like basically ruined the whole Freemasonry for a while because he was against it. But I'll think of it in a minute. But anyway, supposedly he married her, and there's some pretty good instances where people had like actual statements that they did. Lucinda Pendleton, but I can't remember her married name. I can't remember that
well,
right
it was now. His brother Hiram and his dad were both Masons growing up, but he wasn't until they get to Nauvoo. And basically you have Bennett, who I think he shouldn't have trusted, obviously. Bennett's just a super villain of, epic proportions. And it was basically, he was sold to it as, this is how you're going to get, you're going to get the government to leave you alone. And if you become this, you're going to get rid of persecution, and you'll be able to get your city charter and all that kind of stuff. And then they basically, right before he's killed, they go on the outs. So it's not like he was always a Mason and everybody loved, they're all lovey-dovey till the day they die. They were on the outs
No.
with each other. And then from that point forward, till we get to Heber J. Grant, Mormons were not allowed to be Masons until the 1900s.
Right, right. It's William Morgan, the William Morgan affair. He married the widow of William Morgan, which I thought was really weird, but also maybe a power play. I mean, they say she really loved him. That she showed up at his funeral and threw herself on the casket, and his Emma wasn't too thrilled about that. And she was like, "Get out of my husband's stuff, you weirdo! Why are you wearing black?" Yeah, she was like, "Get out of here with that." So who knows? Maybe it was just I don't know for sure, but
Interesting.
because I mean, for years he wasn't a polygamist. Now he is. I don't know the truth because it's too weird at this point. At this point,
And
I'm
that's the
like,
funny thing. I know this is kind of a tangent, but like growing up, just in the
it
church,
was
wasn't even in
never.
Utah. I grew up, and it was not a secret that he was a polygamist. And then
Mm.
I grow up, and then I hear these people saying like, I didn't hear he was a polygamist until I'm an elder. I'm like, what do you? I'm like, what are you
That
talking
was
about? I was
me.
told it my whole life.
Me
And
in
then,
Utah, that was a no way, Jose. Just
oh
purely
really?
Emma. Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Yep.
bizarre. So
Yep.
that's not how so I grew up in Northern California, and then like my in-laws, I've got this picture on the wall. At least I don't have it anymore, but I had this picture of Brigham Young with his wives on the wall, and my wife's brother is like, "Who is what's this picture about?" And then so my father-in-law's like, "Oh, he thinks Brigham Young was a polygamist."
He
What?
definitely was. Brigham
Like I
definitely
never even
was.
heard of that being like a not known thing, and it's not like he's not active. I
That's
mean, this guy's
funny.
like in the high priest group leadership, wife's stake wife's state president, and like just the
Oh
knowledge
my
of our
gosh.
history to me is unfortunate. And I would say, ex-mos probably think it's unfortunate that we don't know our history, and as a believer, I think it's unfortunate that we don't know our history.
Absolutely. I don't think history should ever be hidden because it just makes it look dirty.
Mm-hmm.
If you have a dirty person, like that's that person. But I do understand why organizations or churches of any, it doesn't
Well,
matter who.
context can help too. If you're
Yeah.
like, well, that something else is going on,
And I don't even
stuff
care.
happens.
Like, if they're older, like, and they wanted to all group up like the Oneida Colony, like, whatever, not our problem. You know what I mean? Like, I don't understand why and as a woman, people always assume I'm going to talk about that. It's the least thing I talk about because unless there was some nefarious child stuff, like you're marrying a 12,
Abuse, that kind of
13,
stuff.
yeah, then it's not the same thing to me, even if you are coerced. And this is coming from a woman that got married at 17. I got married at 17 by choice because I was dumb. And in Utah, it wasn't looked down on. It just wasn't. I was pregnant. I just loved the guy and that was it. And I get it. So sometimes I'm like nobody really coerced. I mean, I just was a young kid that thought I was super in love. Like that's what it was. So,
And you could
it,
say, people would say, well,
yeah,
it's because your culture. Well, it's like, well, whatever culture it is coercing you in some way. And
right.
so it's just life.
That's morality. You're going to have the morals that you're grown up with,
Yeah.
like clearly. And so I don't have a problem with that as much as I have with the obfuscation of everything else. Like stop it. And that's what I always say. Like if people, I don't even care if they're a magic Harry Potter cult that they go do weirdo stuff, like go do it. That has no freaking relevance to me, but like stop lying about it because it really makes you look bad, you
Yeah.
know? Like, just be honest. And I get that it's weird or whatever. And only this certain people do that. Like, people say, well, when you went to the temple, were they doing, you know, slicing throats and crazy? I'm like, no, it did freak me out, but none of that was going on. Absolutely not. This is no. And I come from Morgans and Talbots and like Mormon hierarchy. Like Zena Huntington is my original. So, you know, I get it. Like we can't change who we are.
Right.
We can't. But we can fight against, deception. And I hate it. I just don't, I'm like the girlfriend that you lied to, and I'm never going to shut up until you stop it. Like, it's just, yeah. Because I just don't think
Yeah.
it's good to be so dishonest. We don't know our history in general. And then you start doing stuff like this. It's awful.
I mean, people like their privacy and that kind of stuff, and so with some things I can appreciate the churches, saying, for X amount of time while after they die, their records aren't released. But to me, like if everybody's dead, just kind of come on, everybody does stuff that they're embarrassed about. I campaigned for Bob Dole. I'm horribly embarrassed by that, but here we are. It's what happens.
Yes, it's like we are different people today than we were yesterday, every single one of us. And
Right.
we can't help that. Like, but these secret societies keep America sick, in
Right.
my opinion. It's not a innocent thing. It's not. They're
Well, even if
controlling
they were open, I'd
things.
still oppose them. I oppose their agenda, whether
Right.
it's
They're because
secret
they're
or open.
controlling. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's true. I guess the control goes along with it, but I think some of that may die down if it was more open, possibly, but maybe not. It may be too late for that because it seems like it's really taken a hold, like, of America. Like,
Mhm.
it's kind of scary to know what we know, and then you step back and go, is America actually America, or are we just part of like a
Right.
global thing? And I think you've pretty much laid that out in your book. Like, it's a little concerning.
The America of 1789 has been dead for at least 150 years. So I mean, that's
Mhm. Yep.
just the facts.
Yep. And it's never going to change like this. We all have to start being a
You
little
can't fix anything
truthful.
until you know what the problem is. That's just if I've got if I've got a transmission problem and I replace the engine, did that fix anything? No, of course not. We've got to understand the problem before we can fix it.
Yes, 100%. And your book did a really good job of exposing that because it gives people the basis of where did this start to go left? Okay. Like, where did we veer off the road and go completely insanely, like, in a weird, like, I mean, even if you read it as an exmo, you're like, wow, that's really weird. Why would they do that?
Right.
Obviously strings are being pulled, like, clearly. I mean, from presidents to kings and everything in between. They're importing people here during that time frame that are literally royalty. And I don't mean Mormon royalty. I mean actual, like, the House of Stuart royalty, and he becomes a Mormon and he's just a poor guy that dies in Kaysville. What is going on there? Like, that seems weird, like, why would you do that? And part of it is, like you said, are they just working, like with Godby? You have to wonder, was he just working for the British government? Like,
Right.
wouldn't surprise me,
Yeah.
after everything you've said. Like, clearly there is an agenda and a conspiracy at hand. But as long as it remains a conspiracy, we're going to get said that we're crazy. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
So
Yep.
you have probably a lot of things I said probably maybe made members of the church upset, but here's something that might make Exmos upset. And I'd say these attacks against especially the foundations of the church kind of show something to me. Is like, why are all these evil organizations going after them to this extent?
Well, and your testimony, look, if you really believe in something, nothing you hear should ever change that. Like,
Right.
if you sit down with a Satanist tomorrow, you're not going to be a Satanist, I promise you, because I've sat with them and I'm still as
You better not
Christian.
be, otherwise you're
Yeah,
really
no. Yeah,
gullible.
you might be really in trouble then, uh but like, it's just not that. Like, your faith, your real faith should have nothing to do with any of that.
Right.
Nothing. And for that, I definitely think, you are really very kind and careful with your listeners, because I listen and I see that and I appreciate it, even as an Exmo, because look, I may be an Exmo, but I'm not trying to black pill people. Even here in this state, people will say, "What's your podcast?" And I'm like, "Are you LDS?" And that is the first question I ask, because
Right.
I do not want to hurt anybody's anything. If they want to
Yeah.
learn after I explain it, then fine, but I don't want to just throw it out there and black pill people. It doesn't work for people. It makes more problems. That's all it does. Yeah. It's not good.
Well, and
That's
it
not
makes, to me, black pilling in general is a lazy man's out, because then you're saying that there's nothing to do.
right. And you're losing all respect for people. Like, we still at
Yeah.
some level have to be respectful. And that's what I strive to do no matter who I talk to, because I'm just not about that. Or I would be on these big Mormon podcasts debating. That's why they don't want anything to do with me, you know?
Yeah.
And that's why I'm over here in that realm,
Genre.
because yeah,
Both of us
John
hated by everybody.
DeLynn. Yeah, exactly. John DeLynn and all those guys, they don't want to talk to me because I don't have that perfect ending either. I'm not an atheist either. Like,
Right.
I'm not going to lose my faith just because of what happened with me in the church. Like, I'm not. Like, I still love God really a lot, and I'm not going to change that ever. And it doesn't matter what you show me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, doesn't matter. Like, you could be like in this part of the Bible and this, and they can do that all day long. I'm still going to believe what I believe. So, for that, I think, separate men from secrets, separate men from societies, separate the things that you need to separate. And that was one thing that I gratefully was taught as a Mormon, is a few things that I always say they got right. They are really family oriented, which we need in America today. Like, if we could go back to that, that'd be great. We should
Right.
start taking care of our elders and our children and the things like that, and be communal as families. That is
Yeah.
something they want to destroy, period. And
Yep.
I'm so grateful I was raised the way I was. And I can say I was raised to respect people. I was raised to, be there for my kids. Like, you don't do that. And so, you can do it better, basically. Cause like my in-laws are still in. All my family, a lot of them, they're still Mormon. I don't want to hurt them either,
Right.
like that's just not okay. So doesn't mean corruption doesn't exist, but those are fallible people, and corruption is always there. We're all every day faced with the challenge of right or wrong. And some people
Yep.
just get it wrong. And some people make it right too. We can't just say that
Absolutely.
they're, screwed, because what if they repented? I
Yeah.
don't know. I don't know their life. So, but for your book, I think you really lay out where things went with Utah and how those tentacles seeped into the church. And it's sad. But I'm glad that you are able to still keep your faith and still expose the things that you expose, because I don't think everybody should be an exmo. I think that if you're happy and you love God, like, why,
Yeah.
that's your decision. That's a personal choice. So
Well, that's what
hopefully,
I hope to do. There's, a lot of people have said, well, and I'm actually working with someone to do a non-denominational version of it, because it definitely has, you can tell that I'm definitely not, somebody that's against
you're
Mormonism.
in trouble. You're in trouble
But
both ways.
but at the same, and so but at the same time, it's if someone is like, oh, I don't want to read that because it's pro Mormonism. Well, it shows how this pattern works, and so that you can avoid it and you can recognize it, and so that you can do something about it. That's really what it boils down to. And so
Yes.
wherever you're at, I think that you can. And I've had it endorsed by a Catholic. I've had other non Mormons say that this is a good book that helps us understand correct principles. And then, and like I said before, right, you've got some people that are faithful Latter Day Saints that hate the book because of some of the things it says, and you've got some people that are not faithful Latter Day Saints that hate the book because it's too friendly to the church. And so
Right.
but I think it's important for us to have the data and have the context of the data, because too often when you just look at numbers from afar, it doesn't, it gives the wrong impression. And so you need to be able to understand the context of the people involved in the day-to-day activities. Where are they at? What are they thinking? Because if you do it from a non believing perspective, you're not going to be able to get that impact. you know I have I give an account of some of the things leading to the church becoming more mainstream in the 1880s, before even the revelation to John Taylor in 1886, where you have members. It's not just outside persecution. You have members of the church writing letters to John Taylor saying that he's a divider, and that, hey, if you just put this thing up for a vote of the people, then it's not your fault. God won't hold you accountable. You're all good. It's on us. And so if you're just taking this from an outside, from an outside perspective, I don't think that kind of a thing is going to, you're not going to be able to make that make sense to you. And so I think it's
Right.
important
Right.
to be able to, as you're an outsider, you still need to be able to see what is how does that person tick. And you
Right.
can't.
I think that's well explained too, with somebody that you were talking to at a conference, and he said, "How do you know he was in Skull and
Oh,
Bones?" And
yeah,
you
yeah, yeah.
said, "Yeah, because it was in his book." And he was like, "Well, that," and he goes, "Well, I don't like that," or something. And you were
Yeah,
like, "I'm sorry, it's just in a book." Like, I mean, he was mad at you for telling the truth. And I'm like,
right.
that we can't be there. We can't be there and grow. We can stay
Right.
there and stagnate, but we can't change anything because we have to deal with all of this. We have to deal with the infiltration and look at this. And people always say, "Well, pick a side because you act like Pollyanna and you just don't want to be on either side." I'm like, this isn't about sides. This is about truth. Like,
Right.
not everything is about picking a side. I think it's weird. So,
I
yeah,
don't have to
truth
hate
is truth.
everybody every time. It's
Right.
silly.
Yeah, it's just silly and we can't do that. But I didn't let you tell everybody where to find you. And so, one more time, will you let everybody know where to find your work, where to join, and how to get your book?
Yes. So treeoflibertysociety.com is where you want to go. Treeoflibertysociety.com. We have this book that we've been talking about. We have Invasion. And then we also have a new book that's just come out where we have it on physical. We have paperback, ebook, as well as audiobook called the Righteous Sword Against Tyranny. And that's a really important book that is something that actually inspired the founding fathers in their direction and what they did. So if that's the kind
Amazing.
of the things that not just reading the founding fathers, but reading the kinds of things the founding fathers read interest you, I think you'll really enjoy that book.
Ooh, I'm definitely getting on that one. And I'll tell you guys, I don't endorse everyone's stuff. I'll just usually say it's in the show notes, but I'm going to endorse his book because I've read it. So,
Thank you.
yeah, I liked it a lot and I appreciate everything you do. I think you're highly underrated and I hope this helps that. I hope this helps
Appreciate
because you have some things to say.
it.
And
Well, we've
also
had our
you're
channel killed
on
before. We had
X too. Yeah.
14,000 subscribers at one point, and
Oh,
then
wow.
YouTube killed it. And so we were just rebuilding. And so
Ugh,
we're hoping to, and then of course, as the rebuilding happens, you get the shadow banning, and we get people telling us that that YouTube unsubscribed them. And
oh,
so that kind
wow.
of stuff's real. And so anything people can do to help us make sure that overcome that is very helpful.
Well, yeah, that's just, that tells you right there. That tells a story, right?
Yeah.
Like in itself. And the fact that you would come on here with, I'm a rabid Exmo crazy lady. No,
You're so mean to me. I can't believe
I
it.
know. I'm like, I don't want to debate anybody. So if you are a current Mormon and you have a story to tell, don't feel afraid because I'm not going to attack you or debate you. It's not really my thing. I did letter and debate, but like, if I'm preparing for a debate, I want to be in a debate and know about it. I don't want to do an interview and do
Yeah.
that. That's weird. And we're on the same team ultimately because we're both for
Hope so.
America. Yeah. It's
Yeah.
sad. I would like America to be not owned by the New World Order.
That'd be a good thing.
Little stuff like that. Yeah. And Utah because I live here. So,
Right.
things like that. Let's not have that happen. So, get these books, educate yourself. The biggest like horrible thing that they did to us, I think as a people is take away our history and make us
Oh
dumb
yeah.
down to where we don't want to learn. So, don't do that. Learn.
Well,
Get
and they
books.
equate learning with losing your you know, people will say you learned your way out of the church. I'm like, that's just not to
No.
me. Like the more I learn, the stronger I have a testimony of actually the foundations. You have other people that have the opposite. To me, it's context. To me, it's if I believe that I've learned addition, things that give context to things that Exmos might not like, but that's
Right.
not for everybody. That's fine. To me, it's about data, like we talked about earlier. What you do with that data is up to you. Some people
It's
are going to
history.
leave, and
Yeah.
some people are going to be stronger. It's just up to it's not about the data. Data
It's
doesn't
not.
lead you astray.
y- Yeah.
Data doesn't lead you out of anything. Data just helps give you context to what's going on and gives you more information to make an informed decision.
100%. It should never just be about feelings. And I know the church really leaned on that for a time, like in the
Yeah.
90s, kind of. And look, this is even in the Book of Mormon, too. Like it says in there, you're not just supposed to trust your feelings. So I know they leaned on it for their gain, like
Oh,
in
people
in
equate their feelings
numbers.
with the spirit all the time, and it drives me
Yeah.
insane.
No, it's not the same thing. And if you need to know, then you go figure that out. But don't
Right.
let data change it or history change it because we are trying to fight this battle here that I don't think people really understand.
Right.
We've got, you know, foreign countries and the America trying to make an alliance that is scary. It's terrifying
Yeah.
actually. So Yeah. I don't know how else to say that. Like, I know people won't like that, but it's true. And no politician's going to save you. We're all going to have to learn how to save ourselves.
Oh yeah,
Unfortunately, they're just puppets, like in my opinion, anyway,
absolutely.
at this point. Yeah. Because we get led astray. Like you said, you got led astray. It's just, they're all in it, and it sucks because I wish we could believe, like really like have someone and people want it. They're so thirsty for it. And that's why they believe in those
Well, and that's the
politicians.
thing is that causes us problems. I think either in religion or in government is when we put the God-given responsibility that we have on someone else to do it for us.
Yes.
And that's at the Tree of Liberty Society. What we try to do is say, no, it's your personal responsibility. You're going to join with us so that we can strengthen our efforts, but the responsibility is on you.
Yes.
And if
100%.
we want to give it to somebody else, if you want to say, Ben, go solve my problems for you, you're host.
Yeah. Yep. It's not going to happen. And Exmo certified. So you guys don't be afraid of Ben or his website or his information. It's fantastic. Like I tell people about the occult stuff in the church, you're never going to know what the occult stuff is if you don't learn about it. Like you probably need to do that a little bit so you know what you're doing. And if you do get in with some bad guy that's over here in that weird branch of the who knows what, like then you'll know to like jump off the ship, like no, don't do that. So I just think we have to be
using that clip
responsible.
that you just said that Exmo endorses Ben. That would be like, see,
Yep.
see,
Yep. Exmo endorses Ben because of history. We will fix that. Because I mean, but you know what? They use everything against us.
Oh, yeah.
They'll flip it around on me and say, see, she's a Mormon still. So there we go. But I just feel like there's a better way to fight this battle. And if you love America, what it was really designed for, if you love your rights, if you love, freedoms that you enjoy and the Constitution and all of these things set up for you, you might want to check it out. Like it's really at a weird critical point we have to be responsible for. So yeah, what if the founding fathers just said screw it and went home, watched, I don't know, what did you watch back then? Cows? I don't know.
They had their own they had their 1700 versions of Left Behind. And they're like, oh,
go.
King George is getting so bad. I bet. Isn't that great? Jesus is coming next week. We don't have to do
I know.
anything.
I mean, maybe, but still should do the things. The way it's getting, I mean, I'm not going to put that past anything, but yeah, we gotta do something. We really
we're
do.
responsible, whether the Lord comes tomorrow or, in 100 years, our job is to stand up for him. I love the saying of, it's in the New Testament, where we are to take care of the vineyard, right? We just because we don't know when the Lord of the vineyard's coming back doesn't mean we let the vineyard go to pot. We've got to take care of the vineyard right now. And when he comes back, we're like, look, I made your vineyard, at least in my area, pretty. And so I think that's our job.
What did you do with your talents? Did you bury them? Yep. I just 100% agree. And I am so glad you spoke with me. I know it was probably a little sketchy at first because you were probably like, oh my gosh, this lady.
I'm glad I was going through some moving and whatnot. And so it was.
Good. It wasn't fear. Okay. Good. I'm glad. Well, I hope to speak to you again. It sounds great. And I love it. All right. Well, you guys go follow Ben, go join, go get his books. I'm telling you right now. So other than that, this has been amazing. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
All right. Bye.
See ya.